So he went through a whole list of reasons why he felt the Sixers didn't lose: defense, effort, execution. They didn't just lose. I mean, the Celtics pretty much dominated them. How do you think that was able to happen in Game 1, CC?
It's a make-or-miss league. Making shots, especially three-point shots, especially in the NBA, because it's about pace and space. They had the spacing. They knocked down shots. I mean, if you look at Marcus Smart and the center for the Celtics,
Aaron Baines,
I think they had 5 three-pointers between them. They matched Philadelphia's productivity. They had 4 or 5 three-pointers themselves. So Philadelphia only had 5. What has Philadelphia done to get here? Because people, they watch one game and be like, wow, you try to analyze that game, but what did they do to get here? They were one of the best defensive teams, if not the best defensive team in basketball, with Joel Embiid arguably being the best defender and making threes. That's what they did. They weren't very good on the defensive end, meaning they couldn't figure out the sets that Boston was running at them. They had a game plan for it, but they didn't execute the game plan the way the coach had anticipated, letting Boston score 56 points in the first half. What has Boston struggled with? What's their weakest part? Besides, we know the injuries, the talent. They shooting the basketball. Offensively, they're challenged at points. They knocked down a bunch of shots. Brad Stevens had a tremendous game plan for what they were trying to do. Philadelphia never adjusted in the second half, but this year, Jenna, there's been 33 contests where a team made 12 more three-pointers
than their opponent.
Yes, and the opposition that had the deficit, they only won 3 times. So last night, Boston, 12 more, 36 points from the three-point line. That was the difference in this game. If Boston shoots the ball like this, they've been a different team. That's why they've been so competitive with the best teams in the league. But go ahead, Nick.
The difference was definitely what you're talking about, the 36-point deficit on the three-point line. What I find so interesting is how the Celtics were able to create that difference. I understand Philly missed some open shots, but Boston also was not giving them the looks they wanted because they refused to double Embiid. They said, and Brad Stevens is one of the few coaches that during those quarter breaks when you talk to the coach will actually teach you some things, give you some real information. He flat out said it. He said, we will sacrifice the two. We are not giving up threes.
Joel Embiid will get some good looks because we will defend the three-point line.
So part of it was good fortune by Boston that Philly missed some open shots, but also they were not allowing Philly to get the shots they wanted. And then on the other side, this game to me, in addition to three-point shooting and Boston's 3 guys playing great, and Horford, Tatum, and Rozier, the story is Joel Embiid on both sides of the ball. That the Celtics defensively decided, we'll let Embiid get 30 as long as he is not kicking out to open three-point shooters. But then also the way the Celtics neutralized him as a defender. What you saw is when Aaron Baines was in the game, Aaron Baines not trying to post up Joel Embiid. He's standing in the corner. Aaron Baines can hit that shot. He's not a great three-point shooter, but you have to respect it. So now all of a sudden Joel Embiid has to shade him to the corner, and the Celtics were just playing 4-on-4 on the other side of the court. You remove the best rim defender in the Eastern Conference from his ability to protect the rim, and that's how you can score 117 points against these guys.
Nick makes a great point. What they did was they took Baines out of the pick and roll. All right? If he's out of the pick and roll, that means he's in the corner. That means that Joel Embiid, he can't help 2 people over. If he was 1 person over, like if he was guarding Horford or if Baines was in the pick and roll, he would be at the top of the key, which would also make him flow down into the lane. With him being in the corner, it was a great game plan. You also saw that Joel Embiid, he started getting a little anxious. He started trying to help too much, and the Celtics countered, taking advantage of him helping out and freelance on the defensive end.
The one thing you both mentioned was Brad Stevens. How much of what happened last night was because of the way that the Boston Celtics head coach managed this game plan with the guys that they didn't have, much less with the guys that they did?
Right. I'm going to be careful because I know Nick is really excited about Coach Stevens and what he does there, because a coach isn't on the floor making shots. A coach is,
he barely had his players on the floor.
The coach is not defending people. The coach is not under the gun like the guys, all right? You have to give the Celtics players, especially their role players, and for years, since I've been watching the NBA, which is a long, long time, Boston Celtics role players, Danny Ainge, they play so much better at home. This is not just this team. Look at the role players, how well they played last night. We know they have significant injuries, but this has been a theme for the team. We can give, yes, they were prepared for the game. Yes, did they have a counterpunch to Philadelphia, what they were doing? Yes, but the players, Rozier, Tatum, you got to give a lot of the credit to what they did.
All right, so you brought up a lot of important points there. One is home road. So the Celtics in these playoffs, they've played 8 games. They are undefeated at home. They haven't won yet on the road. So don't discount how important that home crowd in Boston is. The other is the guys. Rozier, Tatum, Horford. They combined last night for more points as a trio than Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett ever did.
Wow.
Ever in a playoff or a regular season game. More points combined than those 3 guys ever did. They all scored 23 points. The first Celtics trio to do that in a playoff game since Parrish, Mikal Bird in 1987. Only the 3rd Celtics trio to ever do it in a playoff game. So those guys were great. Where I will give Brad Stevens credit, and where much like CC to Donovan Mitchell is me to Brad Stevens, on the corner early and often trying to alert people how special this player or this coach is. What Brad Stevens is, in my eyes, right now, the best in the league at is putting guys in position to do what they do well. You have a GM in Danny Ainge that knows who his coach is and says, okay, I can take a guy like Terry Rozier, who people thought was a project, people thought was a reach when we picked him out of Louisville. He will be coached up in order to reach his full maximum potential. And then when he gets the opportunity, he's going to go out there and all of a sudden give me a poor man's Kyrie Irving level production on offense in a critical game, because we are asking him to do what he does well. The way Brad Stevens empowers Marcus Smart. This team all year is one team with Marcus Smart, one team without Marcus Smart. All the numbers back that up. They know what I know, that Marcus Smart is literally the worst three-point shooter in the history of professional basketball. They will allow him to shoot some threes because he wants to.
And the other role players, because it continues to spread the court. He empowers them that whoever's playing the role, you can shoot the ball. That doesn't happen. A guy who subs for Kyrie Irving when he was injured in Cleveland, you couldn't get 18 shots. But he accounts for the shots and productivity into the role that he's asking you to play.
And what that does is, because Marcus Smart likes shooting threes, you let him do that, all of a sudden he's getting you all the hustle plays, the and ones, the offensive rebounds, the diving on the floor that makes them a different team. This was a team that won without Jaylen Brown. That was when you mentioned nobody thought Boston had a chance in this game. The real question was, well, if they don't have Jaylen Brown, how can they have enough talent? They not only won last night, as Brett Brown put it, they dominated the game. He said he thought the Sixers were never in that basketball game. It's an enormous win. And all of a sudden, it's another reminder. See, that the playoffs are supposed to be hard. The Cavs and the Warriors last year made us forget that once you get to the semifinals in the playoffs, it's supposed to be hard. They're supposed to go 6 or 7 games.
Well, first, the three-point line. I mean, you don't put the Celtics on making 17 threes. They make 17 threes and obviously dominate from the three-point line. But then the effort and energy that they played with last night was second to none. Looked like a team that just played a 7-game series. They looked fresh, ready to go out of playing basketball. Don't want to make excuses for Philly because Boston plays so well, but when you sit for 6 days, you don't play. You got a young group that's never been in this position before, don't understand the magnitude of a second round of the playoffs. They got smacked in the face.
Well, and I understand the layoff part. And if you're Philly, you're playing the best basketball collectively that you've ever played. It's not just since Christmas. It was the 20 out of 21 that you mentioned. But the flip side to that is Boston just had to play a grueling 7-game series. And in the 7th game of that series, the guy who played the best for them in that series, other than maybe Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, hurts himself, and he's out for game 1. So I understand the layoff's not ideal. I get all of that. But this is a game that Philly, I think, is going to look back on and say, we got out-schemed. Yes, absolutely. Boston hit shots. We didn't hit shots. But some of that, the reason that they didn't hit shots was the scheme Boston put out there, that we're not going to double Joel Embiid. We're just, you know what, if Joel Embiid gets his 30 points, we're going to deal with it. What we're not going to do is help off the shooters. What we're not going to do is allow you to do what we saw them do to Miami in 2 of those games, which is just rain 3-pointers on them and win the game that way. Like, I thought Boston, of course they executed well. Rozier was outstanding, as was Horford, as was Jason Tatum. We saw, again, Marcus Smart give you those intangible energy plays. But they went into this game with an ideal game plan that's going to cause, I would think, Brett Brown to have to adjust some things going into game 2.
I don't think it's scheme. I think they will adjust. The coach said after the game that they didn't execute the game plan. Joel Embiid said at the press conference, man, we were prepared, but we didn't do what we were supposed to do. Let me tell you what's not scheme. Ben Simmons having more turnovers than field goals. All right? Now, that's not scheme. You know what that is? That's a young guy who had a lot of time off, and coming into the intensity of the Boston arena, man, they weren't ready for that. Question for you. I have 2 questions. The role players in Boston, I told them, since I've been watching NBA 40 years, the role players have always played great at home in Boston with that crowd. You've been in really competitive series with Boston, in Boston. Explain some of that energy that the role players, what they get, and some of the same thing you got late in your career when you were in Miami. I was a season ticket holder there. What does that mean for role players and that energy they get from the crowd?
It's second to none. I mean, that's what role players do. They play well at home. They got their family. They got their friends. The fans are cheering for the loose ball dabbling on the floor. You don't necessarily have to make a bucket. So it's especially in Boston, because you got real, true sports fans that understand the nuances of the game, the hard work that goes into it. Marcus Smart can be a legend in Boston because of how hard he plays and all the intangible things he's done. I remember playing with a guy, Walter McCarty, energy guy. They loved him in Boston. But the one thing that the Celtics, that Terry Rozier and those guys, they got to understand that Philly is a young team. They was not prepared. And they got a lot of open shots. That will change.
A lot.
This will change in game 2. I'm a Boston guy. I love the Celtics. That's my old team. I look at it as my second home. But Philly will win this in 5.
Oh, in 5?
Yeah, they'll get this done.
Wow.
They'll get this done in 5. I just think this is a wake-up call for them. They're more talented. They can shoot the 3 ball. They don't have to hit the 3s to win. You can't give Joel Embiid 30 points and think you're going to win.
Right.
They're not going to lose too many games like that. And they're not going to shoot as bad as they did from the 3-point line the way they did. I think Boston's too hurt. Jaylen Brown, when he does come back, is not going to be 100%. I don't think they have enough. I mean, they made shots last night. They fed off the energy from Game 7. I think now Philly has 2 days to prepare, and they're going to make the proper adjustments. And Boston can't win in Philly. Philly's one of those places, just like Boston, they're just very tough to play. The fans are going to be on you, and they play great in that building. They remind me, they're starting to get that crowd like Golden State had a couple years ago, where it was just an intimidating place to play. So I like Philly to win the next 4 games.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.